Let's paint this back alley in a Japanese city. I have drawn the line work on a Stillman and Bean Nova Beige-Toned paper using black acrylic ink. Acrylic ink is waterproof once dry. I let it dry for a few hours. Now I will begin painting over the line work. I will use a variety of mediums like watercolor, acrylic white paint and alcohol markers to paint this picture. If you do not have a particular medium that I mention, do not worry. I will also mention any substitute mediums you can use to get a similar effect. Art is not about drawing only the beautiful things. As artists, every one of us can draw some mundane and even ugly facets of life and still make them look beautiful. This back alley is not particularly pretty or clean, but the overall chaos combined with the heavily potholed wet street and the lights make this an excellent subject for painting. Begin with watercolor paint. Paint the distant sky visible through the alley. Paint the sky using dark blue and purple paint. Paint a hint of some buildings between the sky and the alley. These buildings are distant and hazy, and therefore there is no need to draw any details on them. For the buildings within the alley, I have used a wash of burnt sienna, that is brown, orange and purple. Orange and purple are complementary colors, which means they are at the opposite ends of the color wheel. When they are freely mixed together like this, they create a neutral tone. This tone is good for painting objects where one does not need to show too many details, like the pile of junk on the left hand side. Since the road is wet, some color of the shops and their lights will get reflected on the road. Whatever colors you use to paint the shop on the right hand side, use the same color to paint a part of the road below it. Make sure you let the colors mix together on the road just like we did while painting the left hand side building. This is how the picture got transformed from the earlier monochrome stage after the watercolor wash. Now I will use alcohol markers to paint the brightest part of this painting once the watercolor paint dried. If you do not have alcohol markers, you may use thick watercolor paint or acrylic brush pens or acrylic paints or color pencils, gouache paints or any medium you are comfortable with. Just make sure that you use the new layer of paint to highlight the important bits of the painting using brighter and more saturated colors. While painting the reflections over the road, be careful not to overpaint everything that is painted using watercolors. Use bright colors sparingly. Adding a human figure to any landscape painting lends a sense of proportion to a painting. Make sure you highlight the reflection of this person to really drive home the point that this is a wet street. Now I have turned back to the acrylic ink to darken the shadows. Sometimes applying watercolor over the ink line work may cause the line work to fade a bit. Therefore, one needs to redarken parts of the line work and shadows after applying the paint. After the black ink held in my brush was almost exhausted, I diluted it further by dipping the brush in water. Now I am using the diluted black ink to add soft shadows to the pile of junk here, so that those random shapes make a little bit of sense. One does not need to paint detailed shadows. A hint of shadows is enough. Now I am going to use white acrylic paint to add some highlights to the painting. This is the stage when the painting will begin to really pop. White paint works like a charm on beige-toned paper or any toned paper for that matter. Adding such highlights using white paint is the most rewarding phase of painting on a toned paper. At the end, use some black ink and black ballpoint pen or a gel pen or a black brush pen, whichever is available, to tighten up the whole painting and to redraw or repaint any shadows or lines that you think need a touch up. Apologies in advance to anyone who can read the Japanese script and find what I write on those boards atrocious. And thus, we have moved from this to this to finally this finished painting. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this video. Please leave a thumbs up to this video, subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon for notifications. Happy painting!